This episode is brought to you by the Sterling Soap Company. Christmas will be here before you know it, and you know what would make a great stocking stuffer for everybody in your family? Sterling Soap. From bar soap to shave soap, beard balm to lip balm, aftershaves and lotions, Sterling Soap has something for everyone on your list. Check out their seasonal soaps that will complement the scents of your home this holiday season. And they're more than just soap. They also have a full line of coffee straight from the Sterling Roastery. Find their full line of products at sterlingsoapcompany.com.
What's up, sports history fan? Dana Augusta here of the Historically Speaking Sports Podcast. Ever wish you can get behind-the-scenes access to the Hockey Hall of Fame and dive into the untold stories that shaped the game? Then you need to check out Hockey Hall of Fame True Stories Part 2 by Eric Zweig. Eric's latest book is packed with wild, unexpected tales from epic rivalries and game-changing moments to quirky incidents like polo injuries and snowblower mishaps. Eric Zweig's impeccable research and passion for the sport of hockey will whisk you through the NHL's early years, the origins of the Three Stars tradition, and how hockey first hit the airwaves. Plus, you get fresh takes on legends like Wayne Gretzky, Bobby Hall, and Joe Sakic. Hockey Hall of Fame True Stories 2 is available now wherever you get your books. Grab your copy and get ready to dive deep into the heart of the game.
This is Basketball History 101 with Rick Loayza.
Welcome back to Award-winning Basketball History 101, part of the Sports History Network. I am your host, Rick Loayza, and this is a podcast where we bring to life some of the forgotten stories from basketball history. We are bringing old school basketball to a new school audience. And today we bring you another entry in the occasional series on the lost teams of the ABA. We have been covering those teams from the ABA that did not make it into the NBA as part of the merger when the two leagues got together in 1976. And I mentioned in a previous episode that to me, it always seemed like the ABA had around 30 teams during their 9 years of existence, and it turns out that the ABA only had around 12 teams. However, those teams relocated and changed their names constantly, which made it seem like there were more teams than there really were. Between the 12 teams, they went by 31 different names. The only two teams that never changed their name and never relocated were the Indiana Pacers and the Kentucky Colonels. So it was not uncommon for teams to go by 3 or 4 different names in just 9 seasons. However, for today's episode, we are covering the only team that joined the ABA after the league had already started. The other 11 teams were original teams that began play during that first season. In those first few years, the ABA lost 2 teams and fell to just 9 teams in the league. So it was a welcome change when new ownership wanted to join the league to bring them back up to 10 teams. And the name of the team was the San Diego Conquistadors, and they began playing in the 6th year of the league, which was the autumn of 1972. Gasoline back then cost only 36 cents per gallon, and milk was only 89 cents per gallon. Plaid patterns were all the rage in clothing fashion, and the song American Pie was all over the radio that year. Life in 1972 was groovy. And few things were groovier than living near the Pacific Ocean where the Conquistadors were located. The palm trees, the ocean breeze, and perfect weather year-round. The team was affectionately known as the Qs for short, which is a bit odd because the word conquistador starts with a C, not a Q, but I guess the Qs sounds better. In any case, they came into the league with Casey Jones as their first head coach. He is the Hall of Fame player who won college and NBA championships playing alongside Bill Russell. Jones was the real deal, and he knew basketball, and he, of course, would later coach the Boston Celtics to a couple of championships in the 1980s. But here with the Conquistadors, or Qs, Jones was able to be a head coach for the very first time, having just been an assistant coach for the 1972 NBA champion Los Angeles Lakers. So, coming fresh off a championship, he was a good signing for the Qs and the ABA in general. Jones gave the league more credibility. Of course, being a brand new team, they did try to put together the best roster that they could come up with, but it was very short on talent. A player by the name of Stu Johnson led the team in scoring that year with 22 points per game, but it really was not enough. The team went 30-54 in that first season, but that was still good enough to make the playoffs, where they got swept out of the first round by the Utah Stars. But now things were really going to start cooking. The owner of the team was Leonard Bloom, and in the summer of 1973, he had an idea that literally made the other owners laugh with hysteria. Bloom announced that he was going to sign Wilt Chamberlain, and the rest of the owners wished him luck, but felt that Bloom was on a fool's errand. It was known that Chamberlain had just retired from the Lakers after 14 seasons in the NBA, so in one sense, Chamberlain was available, and Bloom went after him. And Bloom did not want to mess around, and he offered Chamberlain $600,000 for one season. Well, that made headlines and reverberated across the ABA and the NBA. That kind of money for just one season was astronomical at the time. The highest paid NBA player was making only $500,000 for that season, and that was Ernie DiGregorio. So this was even more money than the NBA, and Wilt was more than happy to take that money and sign on with the Qs. He took publicity photos wearing the team uniform. He played in 4 preseason games as the new center for the Qs. The league was ecstatic to have that caliber of a player in their league. He would sell out arenas everywhere he played. The rest of the ABA owners were highly confident that Chamberlain would increase revenue across the entire league. But then something happened. If this was a film documentary, this would be the part of the story where the background music changes from something happy and energetic to dark and ominous. This is where the story takes a downturn, and that downturn was called the Los Angeles Lakers, and they had something to say about Chamberlain's new contract with the Qs. You see, when a player joins an NBA team, or any professional team for that matter, there is something called a contract, and that contract is enforceable until the designated end of the contract. So let's go into the details for a bit. Chamberlain retired from the Lakers at the end of the 1973 season. However, his contract ran for one more year until the end of the 1974 season. Every NBA contract has a clause where if a player retires before the end of the contract, the team simply does not have to pay him. And of course, that makes sense. No play, no pay. However, and this is important, the contract is still an active and enforceable contract until it fully expires. So for Wilt Chamberlain, his contract with the Lakers ran until the end of the 1974 season. If he decided to come out of retirement, then it means that he could only play for the Lakers and no one else. And once the contract ended at the end of the 1974 season, he would then be able to sign with the ABA or anybody else if he really wanted to. And he was still a year away from that happening. So after just 4 preseason games as the starting center for the Qs, the Lakers filed a lawsuit that said that if Chamberlain wanted to come out of retirement and continue his playing career, it had to be with the Lakers per the contract that was still in place and active. And the judge sided with the Lakers. Chamberlain could not play with the Qs. Well, Leonard Bloom was now in a very tough situation, but he was a very creative businessman, which is why he was as successful as he was. And he came up with a really great idea. And I will share that idea right after this break.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
At the Sports History Network, we're all about sports yesteryear, and so we're so pleased to introduce you to Row One, an online memorabilia gallery and shop that brings your sports history to life anywhere. The Row One gallery includes over 5,200 gorgeously reproduced prints of team posters, game program covers, game tickets, advertisements, and more in baseball, pro and college football, pro and college basketball, and more. And any gallery item may be printed in a variety of sizes on wood, metal, canvas, acrylic, or poster paper. And in Row One shop, check out the thousands more of unique unique items with a retro and historical designs dating back to 1876, including t-shirts, long-sleeve shirts, phone cases, mugs, blankets, pillows, towels, and even shower curtains. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com, ROW1, for access to the full Row 1 catalog and for gallery prints and gift items, plus get a 15% discount off all prints on the Row 1 Pictorium Gallery with coupon code SHN15. Follow the link on the show notes.
Hello, sports history fans. I'm Ross from the podcast Pigskin Tales. You're about to jump into another thrilling sports history moment, but first, let's dive into today's sponsor, just in time for the holiday season. Introducing Art of Words, the brainchild of word artist Dan Duffy from Philadelphia. Dan meticulously crafts stunning images by handwriting relevant words from some of the greatest sports moments in time. These unique, budget-friendly illustrations are the perfect gift, sparking cherished memories and capturing hearts. Choose from city skylines, sports, history, and musicians to find a piece for everyone. And here's the exciting part. For that sports fanatic in your life, gift them a piece of their favorite team or player's history. Art of Words tells a compelling story. Explore collegiate stadiums, each meticulously crafted with every football victory etched into words. Or venture into baseball stadiums, handwritten with every player from the team's illustrious history. My favorite on the site is Bryce Harper 2021 MVP year. Because I'm a big stats guy, I think that's one of the coolest things ever. Check it out. Don't wait. Order a print today for yourself and your loved one this holiday season. Transform your wall into a gallery of captivating art and surprise your family and friends with a print of their own. Use code SHN15 at artofwords.com for a 15% discount on your order in November and December. Visit Art of Words, where words magically transform into stunning art, evoking cherished memories and touching the hearts of those who you care about. Again, use the code SHN15 for 15% off at artofwords.com.
Welcome back to the show, and let us continue with the story of the San Diego Conquistadors of the ABA. Now, before the break, we shared how Chamberlain would not be allowed to play for the Qs because he still had an active contract with the Los Angeles Lakers. So the owner, Leonard Bloom, came up with an extremely creative idea to save the situation. He figured out that if he signed Chamberlain to be the head coach, it would not violate his player's contract with the Lakers. And he was right. So instead of Chamberlain the starting center, it became Chamberlain the head coach. And he was right to do so. Basketball fans would still come out to see Chamberlain the coach as much as they would come out to see Chamberlain the player. Now, part of the deal was that Chamberlain would shake hands with the fans after the game and sign autographs. So that situation got figured out quickly, and the Lakers could do nothing about it since Chamberlain was not actually playing for the Qs. The problem was that having Chamberlain the coach was not a good idea in actual practice. Chamberlain had no interest in running practice. He worked out with the guys and was still capable of playing at an extremely high level, but he would then get distracted. He would often leave the court during a practice session to go make some phone calls. It's like he was there, but not really there. And after a few weeks, he wasn't even showing up for practices. Assistant coach Stan Albeck effectively took over as the primary coach of the team. He ran practices, he set up their offense and their defensive systems. It really was Albeck's team, and Chamberlain was there for his star power. The Qs were lucky to have Albeck on the staff already. He truly was a great coach in his own right, and later he would become a head coach in the NBA and coach the Cavaliers, the Spurs, the Nets, and the Bulls. The team still had a losing season with a record of 37-47, and just like the year before, that was good enough to make the playoffs, but they were knocked out 4-2 by the Utah Stars. Bo Lamar and Stu Johnson led the team in scoring with 20 points each per game. And it was a hit or miss season because Chamberlain Chamberlain was not always there, even for games. Yes, he would just flat out miss some games because he was busy doing other things. Sometimes he would miss games because he was signing autographs as part of some separate endorsement deal that he had, and sometimes he was simply on a date and could not be bothered to coach. Part of the problem is that Chamberlain did not actually live in San Diego. He maintained his home in LA, and he would either fly down to San Diego or take a helicopter, and when he did show up, he would often arrive just a couple of minutes before tip-off. Chamberlain also had become a very avid beach volleyball player, and San Diego was a great place to play beach volleyball. And there were times when Chamberlain drove from the beach straight to the game and then tried to coach in his volleyball clothes, sometimes even walking around barefoot. Sand was falling off his body and getting on the court. So at the end of the season, the ownership decided not to bring back Wilt Chamberlain. He was just too expensive, and they did not make their money back on his star power. And Chamberlain was fine with that because he really did not like coaching anyway. He just did it for the money. So for the autumn of 1974, the team hired Alex Groza to be the new coach. Now, he was the guy who had previously been banned by the NBA because he was convicted of point shaving when he was still a player at the University of Kentucky, but he was a good basketball man. However, the team got worse and they didn't even make the playoffs in that following season. Groza himself lasted only 38 games and then was replaced by another new coach. Now, things were really starting to fall apart in San Diego. They were losing money and were having trouble putting together a good team. And they had losing season in each of their first 3 seasons, and they had already gone through 4 head coaches. This was not a good situation. So, for their 4th and final season, they decided to rebrand as the San Diego Sails to capitalize on the nautical theme of San Diego. Now, if you have ever been to San Diego, then you will notice a lot of sailboats. People there like to do their boating old school, just using the power of the wind. So you will also see some very old ships docked in the bay. Now, these are old wooden ships that look like they're something that explorers would have used hundreds of years ago. They are absolutely beautiful ships and they look amazing in the harbor. And those ships, those old ones, are known as clipper ships. And that explains the name of the NBA team that would later call San Diego home after the ABA went out of business. Anyway, back to the San Diego Sails. They had another new coach in Bill Musselman, who was best known for coaching the Minnesota Timberwolves in the 1990s. However, the newly christened Sails were so short on cash that they had to cease operation only 11 games into the season. It happened to be the final season of the ABA anyway, but had the Sails been able to make it through the entire season, then they would have been part of the merger negotiations between the ABA and the NBA. However, it was not meant to be, and they folded during the first month of the season. The better players were able to sign on with one of the 9 other teams still left in the ABA. So that was it for the San Diego entry into the ABA. With that, they became part of basketball history. The Conquistadors / Sails are now a footnote in ABA history. But as I have said before, this is why we do this show. We want to keep this history alive for all of us who are fans of basketball history, and we love where this game came from. Join us next time when we share the story of the National Industrial Basketball League, or the NIBL. It was a league that included some NBA level talent because for some players, the NIBL actually paid more than playing in the NBA. That's next time on Basketball History 101, part of the Sports History Network, the headquarters of Sports Yesteryear. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com to find out more about this and other sports history podcasts. If you like what you hear, please hit that subscribe button wherever you get your podcast. And check out our page on Facebook. It's called Basketball History 101 Podcast. There you will find shorter historical posts as well as comments and discussion starters on today's game. I'll also announce there when new episodes come out. I want to thank my producer and editor, Jacob Loayza. Join us each week as we continue to mine the history of basketball for more great stories from the past. Take care and see you soon.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, aka the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website, seriously, all you got to do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you got to do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.